Ever walk into your home feeling like no matter how much space you have, it's never enough? It's not the size, it's the thinking. As an architect, I've visited countless homes that feel unnecessarily cramped, not because of bad products, but because of how people think about their space. Mistakes that become painfully clear when you realize just how much that space is costing you per square foot. The average home price in Vancouver is around $1.2 million. Manhattan, try $1.4 million. Central Tokyo, nearly $860,000. And for those prices, you could buy a chateau in France, a beach house in Mexico, or an island with goats. But Vancouver, a damp condo above a vape shop. So today, I'm going to expose the top 5 mindset traps behind the design mistakes that are making your home feel small, stuck, or suffocating, as well as exactly how to break out of them. Now, do you ever look around your home and think, I don't know what it is, but this space just isn't working? There's a reason for that. And that's because we're often not designing for how we live. We're designing for how we wished we lived. A guest room for guests that never come. A dining room for dinner parties that never happen. A home gym that's held a laundry basket longer than it's held a dumbbell. We build for the ideal, the aspiration, the version of ourselves that we hope to become. And that vision? It's expensive. According to researchers at UCLA, the average American only uses 40% of their home regularly. The rest, wasted space, dedicated to identities that we're not actually living out. Because of this, you end up paying for square footage that you don't even use. Heating, cleaning, maintaining, not a home, but a performance of who you wish you were. And so if your guest room only gets used once or twice a year, it's not a guest room, it's a very expensive apology. But all jokes aside, here's the deeper cost. When your space highlights the gap between who you are and who you think you should be, there's an emotional cost there too. Psychologists tend to call this self-discrepancy theory, and it's why a beautifully styled but unused guest room can make you feel vaguely like you're failing, because your actual self is at odds with your ideal self, which leads to feelings of frustration, shame, and even depression which can linger beneath the surface. But what if your space didn't remind you of who you wish you were, but empowered who you already are? Let's say someone finally accepts that their lifestyle means that they can't host much. They clear out the guest room or dining room, and in its place, they set up a proper workspace. Not the makeshift one at the kitchen counter, but one with a standing desk, good lighting, and a place to focus. And all of a sudden, they're spontaneously doing the thing that they said that they never had time for. Finishing that course, launching that side business, writing the book, maybe even doubling their income. Now, without trying to sound like a motivational speaker, that could be you, but it's all because they stopped designing for someday guests and started designing for their daily self. Doing this isn't giving up on growth, it can be how you grow. Because when your home finally aligns with your habits, your future self isn't just a fantasy, it becomes a natural result. So what do? Audit your week. Open your calendar. What do your evenings and weekends actually look like? And what role could your home play in nurturing your well-being? The dreams for hosting can stay, but your space has to first meet you where you are so that it can take you to where you're going. Most people assume that if a home feels small, the problem is square footage. But in reality, it's almost always an issue with priority. The truth is, smaller homes cost less, require less upkeep, and when used well, actually give you more freedom. But here's the thing, even big homes can feel small when they're poorly optimized. And that usually comes down to the way that we think about space, not the space itself. And the reason for this, we start filling up the most accessible, most valuable spaces in our homes with stuff we barely use. Just think about it. Every home has high-value zones, entryways, closets, main living areas. These should be supporting what you do every single day. But instead, so much of this space often gets sacrificed to low-frequency storage. Think gift wrap, winter coats, spare cables. Take bedroom closets. You might be using one to store seasonal bedding, old duffel bags, or an air mattress that you only happen to use once a year. Meanwhile, half of your actual wardrobe is stuffed into a wobbly drawer unit that barely slides open. It's a bit like putting a filing cabinet in the middle of your kitchen. Technically useful, but completely misplaced. It's a bizarre inversion of priority, and it happens everywhere. Let's talk cost for a second. In cities like Vancouver or Manhattan, home space can cost over $1,000 per square foot for purchase. A storage unit, maybe $50 a month. So you can literally be spending prime real estate dollars just to store off-season gear. That's like renting a Ferrari to haul compost, or using a grand piano as a shoe rack. The reason I say this is because in a recent video, I critiqued ottoman beds. You know, the ones with the lift-up mattress revealing a giant underbed storage vault. Some people loved it, others seemed to find it a little bit of a hot take. And so I'm going to use this example to highlight a bit of a mindset trap. Ottoman beds make you feel like you've unlocked secret space. But really, it is just a very impressive heavy-duty hinge mechanism that you do tend to forget about for around 95% of the year. And the trap? This is what's called salience bias at work, where your brain overvalues what's visually striking or physically novel, even if it might be barely useful. And so because of this, you tend to overlook the boring solution that actually works better just because it doesn't look like a win. If you're still not convinced, let's compare the impressive ottoman bed to a storage bed with simple and unimpressive built-in drawers. Less impressive? Sure, but you're more likely to actually use them regularly because it doesn't require you lifting a mattress 3 feet in the air. And this is the difference between optimizing for a very large yet occasional dose of satisfaction versus mundane yet repetitive functionality that serves you every single day. But when you zoom out even further and ask, what else could this footprint be doing, you start seeing the real opportunity cost. As the same space for the same price could be a bed that slides away neatly, creating space for daily exercise or even a desk and office chair. In small homes, flexibility like this isn't a luxury, it's what unlocks real freedom. It's the currency of compact living. The more of it you have, the more options your space can afford you. If you find yourself storing seasonal items in your prime areas of the home, this is what garages, closets, or off-site storage are for. But an ottoman bed might really be perfect if you're an alpine skier, or someone who needs to frequently access bulky gear in their bedroom, or if you're someone with enough space to disregard worrying about space saving altogether. So what I'm trying to say here is what matters isn't the product, it's the mindset behind it. Now, this is just one example, and to be clear, every home, every culture, and every lifestyle is different. There's no universal ranking that applies to everyone. As long as you're aware of the trade-offs and you're using your space deliberately, you're not stuck in a trap, you're making an educated choice. But the real danger of salience bias is when we let visual impact drive our decisions without thinking through how it actually plays out day to day. And so in order to overcome salience bias, it requires you to take a step back to consider how your best spaces, like your bedroom, can support what happens daily, not just occasionally, where in most cases you don't need more space, you need a better hierarchy. But before we go on to the next mistake, a quick word from today's sponsor, Ugreen. Along with our homes, it's very possible that our digital lives end up holding us back too, with photos, documents, and sensitive data all spread across our phones, laptops, and cloud storage, which feels neither secure or optimized. This is where Ugreen's latest NAS comes in, which serves as your very own local and private cloud, but way smarter. By spreading your data across several drives instead of just one, it can achieve transfer speeds of up to 1250 megabytes a second, which is the equivalent of downloading roughly a whole terabyte of data in around 20 minutes, or a gigabyte video in just over a second, which is all achieved along with help from Intel's 12th Gen 5-core processor. Also, just in case this kind of thing intimidates you, setup couldn't be simpler, using super simple, tool-free drive trays along with well laid out step-by-step guidance, which allows you to immediately enjoy multiple benefits, such as TÜV and Trust-E certification and a built-in security manager, an AI album assistant which can organize your photos by category such as people, pets, and places, and capacity for up to 112 terabytes of storage, which is 112 times more than the current amount of storage that's inside my laptop. But finally, this wealth of storage is shareable too, maintaining access across your various devices with their different operating systems, while even being shareable amongst select users, so your family or even team can log in from wherever they are in the world. So if this sounds like something you've been missing out on, be sure to check out the link in the description to learn more. We inherit these ideas about what rooms are supposed to be: a dining room, a kitchen, a guest bedroom. But here's the question: says who? Those names come from blueprints, real estate listings, and Pinterest boards. Not from you, not from your habits, your needs, your actual life. And if you're following traditional room labels in a small home, it's quite likely that you're following a layout meant for a lifestyle that you don't even live. Now, psychologists tend to call this functional fixedness, the mental block that stops us from seeing new uses for familiar spaces or objects. You see guest room and your brain struggles to imagine it as anything else, even if no guests ever come. This is the same mental blind spot tested in the famous candle problem, where participants were asked to fix a candle to a wall using a box of tacks, where most couldn't because they simply couldn't see the box as anything other than a container. We often will fall into this same trap at home, unable to see that a dining room could be a TV room, or a closet, a workspace. And in more extreme cases, this kind of mental rigidity plays into hoarding disorder, where people can't let go of items because they're simply so fixated on what it was meant to be used for, not what they actually use it for now. You don't need a diagnosis to experience this because most of us have it a little bit. It just shows up in different ways. You don't question the room label, and as a result, you don't question the role that it's playing in your life. But once you start questioning it, that's when things begin to shift. Here's a better way to think about it. Every room in your home is just square footage. It's not sacred, it's not fixed, it's space. And you get to decide what that space does for you. Take a well-designed studio apartment. There's no separation. The bed, the workspace, the dining area, the wardrobe, they all overlap. And because everything overlaps, nothing is sacred. You use what you have and you use it to the full. But on the flip side, give someone more space and suddenly they become far less creative, and you end up with entire rooms that sit underused for 350 days a year, just so that you can point at it and say, that's the guest room. When it's not a guest room, it's a guilt shrine with a pillow-top mattress. Remember that guest room example from earlier? Let's say that I was working with a client in that exact situation. A 4-bedroom house, but they still worked full-time from the kitchen. Not because they were a chef, not because there wasn't space, but because one of the bedrooms was labelled the guest room and had been off limits for years. It was always beautifully styled, always ready, but almost never used. Meanwhile, their actual life, with their creative work, focus, and daily routines, was crammed into awkward corners of the home. But once we reframe that guest room as the space for what happens every day, not once or twice a year, everything changes. And this is because the layout didn't just shift, the mindset did. And that one shift made the rest of the house start working again. And so instead of thinking in room names, think in functions. What do you actually need more space for? Where does your life feel cramped? Not physically, but functionally. A guest room could become a home office. A formal dining room could become a project space. A hallway closet could become your coffee nook. And nothing is off limits unless you decide it is. Your home isn't a blueprint of social expectations, it's a canvas that you get to shape. The fact is, most people don't live in poorly laid out homes. They live in homes that simply were designed for a person that no longer exists. Maybe it worked well once, Maybe it looked good on Pinterest. Maybe it just hasn't occurred to you that there's another way. But the truth is, the longer you live in a space, the more blind you become to what's not working. The reason for this is because we get emotionally attached to things like layouts and furniture choices because they once felt like the right decision. But let's be honest, admitting that something no longer works can feel a lot like admitting that you were wrong. And that's not easy for your ego, especially if it was a sacrifice in order to get there. Let's say someone lives in a small apartment and they buy a sofa bed. Not just any sofa bed, a really well-reviewed one. Sleek, space-safe, cost-effective, reliable. These are all incredible things, so they pass on the comfy couch that they really wanted because this one felt smarter, more efficient. It made them feel like they were making the right choice, like they were winning at small space living. But months go by, no one visits, or when they do, they'd rather just stay at a hotel. And meanwhile, the sofa's stiff, the mechanism's clunky, it's uncomfortable to sit on, and awkward to move around. But it stays, because replacing it would not only be expensive, it would feel like admitting that they were wrong. And that stings. And the cost? It's not just the space that it takes up or the price that they paid for it, it's the comfort that they gave up, the ease of movement, the freedom to stretch out at the end of a long day, the sense that their home actually supports how they live right now. They might not realize it, but they're paying rent, not just in square footage, but in friction. Every time they sit down, shift awkwardly, they feel that compromise. It's not loud, but it's there, every day. That feeling? Psychologists call it the sunk cost fallacy. It's when you keep investing in something not because it's working, but because you've already spent so much on it. You think, I spent $1,400 on this thing. I researched it for weeks. I know I made the smart choice. And so you hold on to it. Not because it's no longer serving you right, but because it simply hurts too much to admit it.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
But let me tell you the uncomfortable truth. Growth isn't about doubling down on your old decisions and your ego preservation. It's about making new decisions based on who you are now. So the question isn't actually, was this the smart decision when I made it? It's, is this still the right decision for the life that I actually live right now? And with budget and finance aside, some people are still gonna design their daily life around a feature that they rarely use, because they're still so loyal to the version of themselves that made that decision. The famous physicist Richard Feynman once said, "You are the easiest person to fool." And I found that nowhere is this more true than in our own homes. We convince ourselves and even become defensive about how things are working because change feels inconvenient or uncomfortable. But as George Bernard Shaw put it, those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything, as even the right decision can age into the wrong one if life has moved on without it. True growth means letting go of ideas that no longer serve you, even if they once did, even if they felt smart, even if you paid good money for them. And the fact is that you don't have to commit to your home's current layout like it's a tattoo. Your home should evolve with you. And so the takeaway here, it's not about whether something is a good decision, it's about whether it's still the right one now. Most people think that they're learning when they're really just watching. That's the trap. It's something that psychologists will sometimes refer to as dopamine-driven inertia. Dopamine is the brain's anticipation chemical, which rewards you for not only doing something rewarding, but also for expecting something rewarding. And so just like expecting the resolution of a great movie or a video game, every time you check out a perfectly optimized kitchen or a minimalist dream home, you get that little hit, which feels like progress. And inertia then means staying in the same state. So when this inertia is dopamine driven, it means getting stuck, passively consuming, without ever moving forward. You feel like you're learning, but you're not changing, and you're getting just enough dopamine to keep you in the same place. This is why binging design content feels productive, but your home still feels off. Design content, mine included, is often packaged to go viral. It feels productive, it looks educational, but if it doesn't make you move a shelf, rethink a habit, or adjust a routine, it's just aesthetic fast food. And so it's crucial to understand that watching design videos doesn't equal designing your life, just like watching cooking tutorials doesn't equal chopping the onions. And really, what you've got to do is just face the task head on. Now, here is where I have to be completely honest with you guys. As a creator, I've had to experiment with some pretty silly video ideas. Why? Because it plays into the same dopamine loop that I just warned you about. It's provocative, it's clickable, it rewards quick judgments. We want to feel validated and we want to validate ourselves. And when a video confirms your choices, it feels good. And when it challenges them, it feels personal. So what do? You click. But the goal of these videos was never to hand out gold stars or red cards. The goal was to get you thinking, because a ranking system, for all its flaws, might be what actually gets us to finally ask, is this actually working for me? And so these videos, they're not gospel, it's not a diagnosis, it's not a personal attack on your ego. It's just one way to deliver perspective. And so yeah, some of these delivery methods might seem a little over the top, but there is a reason behind it. And that is, if something's more entertaining, more people actually watch it. And if more people watch, more people learn. And at the end of the day, that's what I started this channel for, to teach you how to think like a designer and to do it in a way that's actually fun to watch. Because if it's not engaging, it doesn't spread, and if it doesn't spread, it doesn't help. And so when consuming content, always try to bear that in mind so you don't end up being limited by dopamine-driven inertia. And so what's the real takeaway here? It's not just that your space feels small, it's the mental traps making it feel that way. You're prioritizing the wrong things because of salience bias, designing for the life you wish you had thanks to self-discrepancy, letting room names dictate your layout, blame functional fixedness, clinging to old decisions, hello sunk cost fallacy, and binge watching design videos instead of taking action, that's dopamine-driven inertia. None of this makes you broken, it makes you human. But if you truly want to live better in the home that you already have, you've got to spot these patterns and call them out. Because the moment you shift your mindset, you unlock a space that finally starts working for you. Not perfectly, but purposefully, and that's the goal. Design isn't just about what you buy, it's how you think. And how you think shapes how you live. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.